welcome to another episode of Voices of Hult. In today's episode, we are collaborating with Hult International Business School during their Discovery Week Innovation Summit. To kick off this week, today's event is an expert talk, and I will have the pleasure of hosting Professor Hap Klopp, one of the co-founders of the North Face. So,
you heard that right, North Face.
Exactly. Thank you very much, Professor, for taking your time to be here.
My pleasure.
And please introduce a little bit yourself. What do you want the audience to know about you?
Well, as you mentioned, I'm probably best known for having started the North Face, and I ran that for 20 years. And after I sold that, I have my own consulting company, which is strategic and international, global, and branding, and then also get involved in disruptive companies. I'm on the board or an advisor to one out of Chile, which is working with mycelium to try and replace leather. And they do expeditions into the Amazon to find new species of mycelium. I'm involved and on the board of a company which is doing preemptive health care, doing IV drip therapy and also genetic testing.
Wow.
That's out of Dubai and Manchester. And helping another company which is doing CBD-infused sparkling water drinks.
Wow.
It was a breakthrough. And then there's a couple of others. But and then I do a master class series with another professor from Hult, Carlos Baradello, and that is entitled What You Don't Get with a $200,000 MBA Program.
Oh, yeah.
The Three Amigos.
The Three Amigos, that is correct. And Paul Campbell is the other one who joins us in that. And then we're doing a research project on the future of work and the future of education.
Wow.
And, what the future classroom will be about. And then...
Well, that's a lot of innovation.
A lot of innovation, a lot of social entrepreneurship. And, we just want to get started with the point of North Face. And you're famously known for, you were CEO at North Face for 20 years. You founded, you made an amazing product line that is well recognized all over the world today. But what's the story behind it? Like, how did you start, and how was it?
Well, through a series of life experiences that are way too lengthy to explain here, but also through reading, I developed a lot of idiosyncratic views. Today, they aren't quite as idiosyncratic as they were, but in the 60s, they were. And I believed in a triple bottom line business. That's an equal commitment to the environment, society, and to the people that were involved in profits for the company. I had believed what the transcendentalists were talking about, that in wilderness is preservation of the earth, because I'd spent a lot of time out there. And so I had this view that a business should be environmentally focused, it should be dedicated to doing good, and it could do that along with making a profit and whatever. So I ended up running a family company while I was getting my MBA at Stanford because my father died. I sold that company because it didn't fit my model, and I was believing that somebody was going to offer me a job to run their company. I mean, I'd run a company at Stanford MBA. I mean, come on.
Yeah, definitely.
None of those offers came my way.
Yeah, exactly.
So then I interviewed with some large CPG companies because I thought I had a flair for sales and marketing. And those didn't go very well because, frankly, I didn't see all of the things that I had thought were vital to me that I developed in the way of triple bottom line, in terms of diversity, in terms of environment, in terms of those things. And, some of the interviews were kind of humorous because they just pointed out to me I didn't fit into it. Procter & Gamble, I went in, it was an 8-hour interview. The first question, is your name Kenneth or is it Hap? I said, well, it could be both. Most of my friends call me Hap, and they said, well, it'll be Kenneth when you work here.
Okay.
And then they go on to say, and you have to wear a white shirt and a tie. And I'm thinking, I'm in the wrong place. I'm worried about environment and society, and you're worried about whether I wear a tie.
Yeah.
I think eventually they asked you, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And you told them, I will be the president of Procter & Gamble.
I did, and then I said, and that means passing you in 5 minutes.
Oh, well. I can see that you were very ahead of the time.
I was an entrepreneur. But I mean, the remarkable thing is they offered me a job, but it was actually a great interview. Most of the time when you interview with these companies, they ask you, what do you want? And then you pour your heart out to them, and when you tell them what it is, and they say, well, gee, are you lucky? That's what we do here. And then you take the job, and osmotically over time, it dawns on you that a lot of that isn't true. What he was doing, and even though I make light of it, what he was doing was explaining that environment. And I concluded at that point that I couldn't work for other people because I had too much hubris, I had too many ideas that were set in the firm, and that what I would do, if you can't work for anybody else, you need to start a company of your own. And you need to start it around something you know. And I'd spent my life in the out of doors, and so that was what we were focused on. We wanted to make a product for the out of doors. And I had a very simple philosophy of what we were going to do that really differentiated the company at that time. And it's probably humorous to people now because we started out selling sleeping bags and tents and packs and a little bit of clothing. You know, now the company is noted for, you know, probably $3 billion worth of clothing that it sells. But the belief I had, and it came from the Transcendentalist Thoreau, in wilderness is the preservation of the earth. And I believe we could, as a business, change the world.
Okay.
And the way we would do it was by taking people deep into the wilderness. Because what I found from my own experience and reading is you go there and you don't worry about these urban problems that exist. And at that time, we had as many problems as exist right now. You'd find that hard to believe, but you know, we had the Vietnam War, we had you know, the free speech movement, we had Black Panthers, we had a whole number of issues that were there. What I believed and what we believed is if we could develop a product line that would facilitate you going deep into the wilderness, you would come back, be a better steward of the earth. You wouldn't focus on the negativity that exists out there. You'd focus on the positive. And the way to do that was basically to lighten the load that people carried. Because at that time, most people were only going a couple hundred feet off the road into a campsite because equipment was so heavy.
Right.
So we started out, and basically we took and repurposed materials from the Vietnam War, and aircraft aluminum, we made tent poles and pack frames.
Wow.
And then we took parachute cloth and made sleeping bags and tents and some funky clothing. And in doing that, we lightened the load of what people would carry by about 50%. And so people started going miles into the wilderness. Women joined the act because it wasn't a beast of burden act any longer, and we were able to do that. And then we continued to always look for ways to make gear lighter, more efficient, and whatever.
I believe that this was like a mission that would apply to like in the 60s, but it does still apply to today. So having it like this sustainability, now like most of the world is about sustainability, how can companies be greener, but sometimes there is like a greenwash behind it. Whereas like when the sustainability stands in the mission, then the company stands with that.
Well, it wouldn't surprise you to know that people were really sort of made fun of us. They thought we were, you know, pretty weird, you know, and they would call us tree huggers and granola lovers and whatever. And it didn't bother us a whole lot.
Take this as a compliment.
No, we knew what our mission was, and you know, that's what we were doing. It's now more in vogue, but you know, there is the skepticism around greenwashing that exists, and there are also some people that don't yet get it. They don't think there's climate change, or they don't think, you know, and you kind of say look around, but not everybody is seeing it the same way. So there's still a reason for businesses to do that. And as I mentioned, I'm involved with companies that are trying to improve various things. In the case of the healthcare company out of Dubai, Revive, they're trying to do preemptive health care because healthcare costs are way too high. In the U.S., it's 17.9% of GDP. In Europe, it's 9%. Those are unsustainable, either one of those. And the way you do that is democratize healthcare and allow people to take care of theirs by doing that. And the company that is a biotech company out of Chile called Spora Biotech is basically trying to deal initially with leather, which is environmentally a very unfriendly product, and replace it with mycelium and preserve nature at the same time. They go in looking for species in the Amazon or Patagonia. All they have to do is take a culture. They actually talk with the shamans, and they make sure the indigenous population stays there because there's incredible breadth of knowledge. They take it out, develop it in the lab, develop it into a finished product, and you don't have to cut things down. You don't have to eliminate the people that are there. So those have always been part of what we're doing. So although it's a little diverse from the North Face, that's the philosophy that I embedded in it when we started, and the philosophy that I still carry to today. And I know it's right. I don't know exactly how I can convince people other than shouting, but if that's what's required, that's what I'll do.
Yeah,
exactly.
definitely.
And this actually aspect of rehaving like more sustainable like industries such as fashion, as you were saying with the leather, was actually the theme last year for the Hult Prize. And the team that won indeed the Hult Prize was indeed about this one, rechanging the structure of fashion and make it more sustainable.
Yeah, I was supposed to be a judge in that, but unfortunately I had a conflict in time, so I couldn't have been there because I was looking forward to doing it.
Next time then, next
definitely.
time.
I mean, and this time the Hult Prize is, because I'm also taking part in it, is the topic is kind of open. All sustainability goals are on the table. So, it's more, it's an opportunity for more teams to come up with innovative and social entrepreneurial ideas. But, speaking of social entrepreneurship, you've kind of been doing it from the 90s with North Face, and, there's a lot of challenges that come with it. And specifically with North Face, I just wanted you to share your experiences, because every entrepreneur goes through them. The downs, the failures that, kind of make you who you are, and, the experiences that you learn from.
Well, every entrepreneur lives on that razor's edge between incredible world-changing success and abject failure. Yeah. And they're about one day apart. So you never quite know what you're doing or how good you are at what you're accomplishing. And as a leader of those enterprises, what you have to do is make sure you get the team balanced out. Not too high when everything's going well, because there is going to be a down. It's like a sine curve. And not too down when things are there. So you have to be looking over the horizon and be able to bring reality back to the people that are there, because you're going to face those. And some of them could be black swan events, some of them could be internally generated issues, some of it could be competition that you have out there that you haven't anticipated. But it's inevitable that you're going to do that. So the idea, one is, as opposed to feel threatened when it happens, don't be surprised about it, because it is going to exist out there. And the second thing is to develop an adaptable, flexible culture to be able to deal with it, and then constantly adhere to what your principles are. And at North Face, from day one, I wanted to now we would call it an iconic brand. I never used the word iconic then. I just develop a brand. The hell, that was big for me. But the idea was to develop a brand, because I believe, and I still believe to this day, and that's part of what I consult on too, is that products die relatively quickly, and it's getting shorter and shorter, but brands last for a longer time. Yeah. And they are an annuity for future. And so if you can have clear definition of what you stand for, what your DNA is, then you can always come back to that. And what you need is persistence, and you need consistency. Brands are like coral. They start and grow very imperceptibly. You don't see the changes happening, but over time, if you have rules and guidelines, they keep developing more complexity and more beauty, and at a certain inflection point, they're unlike anything else, which is really what you want in a business. I mean, that is a great brand, and so that's what you're trying to do, and you put those guidelines in. And very simply, what we did is we used 3 words, which I would always come back to. I didn't always articulate them in the company, but the 3 words that were our North Star. One was quality, the second one was disruption, and the third was triple bottom line. And each one of those, what we would do is develop stories around that to be able to have them told within the company and also outside the company. Because if I tell you a story, you think, well, Hap's a homie, he'd say that about North Face. But when you repeat it to Lydia, now it starts gaining some credibility. When Lydia tells it to somebody else, it's a fact.
Traction.
That's what you're trying to do.
Yeah. Exactly. So I'm surprised to see how North Face managed to build this big brand, this strong brand, and even how we face competition. To go as well on Ma's question, did you face? How did you actually manage to innovate the North Face to stand out from competitors?
Well, the first one is that we had this philosophy. We were building a brand, and most companies are building a product or a service, and that's what they focus on. They kind of ride the cycle of that, and if it's good, they do really well. But then, what's next? But if you know what your underlying view is, or what you're trying to accomplish, and we had this objective, and it obviously sounds too grand, but we thought we could change the world by taking people into the wilderness. So we were always trying to do that. And if we could facilitate that with a new product, it was great. In terms of embracing disruption, we saw that as a plus. I believed that's what the future was going to be about. And I was pretty much right, and I can tell you it's going to be the same thing going forward. If that's part of what you're doing, instead of it being a threat, you actually look for that disruption, and not just in product or service, across everything. We had an omni-channel business from day one, and people told me you can't do that. And we said, well, yes, we can. Right. In terms of quality, we had a lifetime warranty. Every financial person I ever encountered, including many potential investors, said I was crazy, but it never cost us more than 1.5% of sales. And that lifetime warranty defined for everybody where we stood vis-a-vis other people out there. And it gave something we'd come back to that we would actually build on. So when we built a new product or had a new approach, it always had to tie to that. And then triple bottom line, we were preachers of environment at a very early age, and as I said, people rejected that. And actually, what we did, the story we came up with there, people might find this interesting, we decided because we were pushing, and we were just getting pushed back, the granolas and the the tree huggers. So we flipped it around, and what we did is we came up with something which was a negative award. And the idea was, since they were pushing back on what we were saying, maybe what we could do, we could show them some humor, and we could show them a different way of doing it. So we developed what we called the Ice 9 Award. And wow. It was based on a book by Kurt Vonnegut, American humorist. And in his book, The Cat's Cradle, the protagonist is this scientist who has this great invention. And what it's going to do is convert all the water in the world into ice.
Okay.
Of course, that would destroy the world. But, exactly. But because it was such a great invention, he had to just carry on to that.
Wow.
So in Vonnegut's honor and Cat's Cradle honor, we created the Ice 9 Award, and every year we'd give it to the most environmentally destructive individual organization that existed out there.
Wow.
Gave it to the U.S. Congress one year, got all sorts of notes from the congressman's aide saying, you don't know what you're doing.
Wow.
We're going, yeah, we do know what we're doing. But the idea is if you knew anything about Vonnegut, maybe you'd think we had a sense of humor, but maybe you'd take a look at that in a different way rather than just in a knee-jerk response to, you're ridiculous, you don't see what the future is. So anyway, we tried to do that. As I said, we used storytelling along the way to be able to ratify each one of those things, because the first thing you have to do in a business is make sure everybody on the team is on board.
Right.
And if you're growing rapidly, as we're doubling every single year, you're bringing a lot of new people in. And those people may be brilliant, but they may not know how you do your business. And so you have to periodically, and we do it every 2 years,
the culture,
come back to what is it we're talking about. Yeah. And even at the end of that meeting, and I do it every 2 years, it was banal for the people who've been around, but for those that hadn't, it was really novel. I'd say, I hope we're so clear that now some of you leave the company. And I said, not because you aren't great, because we hired you because you're great, but if you have different ideas about how you want the business to run, we'd rather you don't fight us. We'd rather find you a job somewhere else where that company is run in that way, because there's plenty of ways to run companies, but we can't be all things to all people. We just can be that.
I think it's about aligning, the way of working and the thought process and, what you're passionate about. And you mentioned it time and again. It's about being true to the company's DNA.
Yep.
And that, kind of makes you stand out, which kind of ties in, to one of our other points is today's business environment has drastically changed, with AI and innovations in tech and whatnot. How do companies like North Face and others stay ahead of the curve and, have that foresight to be ahead of the competition in today's, very ruthless, competitive business world?
Well, first of all, I don't believe in competition.
Oh, okay.
I believe that there was an article I read in Harvard Business School long ago, not very academic, but it was about the difference between pie slicers and pie enlargers.
Oh, okay.
And the pie slicers, say the pie, like a pizza pie or whatever, is finite in size, a Malthusian. And, what you get, Lydia, you took from me, or what I get, I took from Oz or whatever. The pie enlargers, which I fall in that camp, are the people who believe if we're creative enough, innovative enough, we're just going to be pie for everybody, and we can do that.
Right.
And I put a a sign on the wall of our design department, but it actually applied to the entire company because you have to be creative and innovative across the entire company.
Right.
Not just product, not just
Right.
service,
Right.
but in your systems and your processes and your approach to market. But it was a quote from Rudyard Kipling where it said, they copied all they could copy, but they couldn't copy our minds. So we left them sweating and stealing a year and a half behind.
Oh.
Wow, that's so.
I
wordy.
think
mean,
that
it's-
exactly,
yeah.
like the words that are like are properly put, that describes precisely what this like enlarging of the pie means. It's not like I completely agree with you. Like I don't believe in competition. Like of course can give you like that hint to do more, but not to be better to like steal from someone else. Like your ideas will be your ideas and can only improve if shared with others. And I think like I believe more in collaboration than competition, and finding ways that you can do that more together.
I share that. I mean, we simplified it and explained it to the people inside the company, saying we want to spend money on innovation, not on lawyers.
Right.
And if you believe in that true competition model, immediately you're going to do all the patenting and you're out
Right.
there suing everybody and trying to do that, which is at its base very negative.
Yeah.
And maybe you have to do it in certain essential things, but it becomes a culture, and there's a great quote from, I think it's a Spanish proverb, but it said, I'd rather be a mouse in the mouth of a cat than a client in the hands
Of
of a
lawyers.
lawyer.
Wow.
And once you get these patent lawyers telling you about that, I mean, it's remarkable. I'm on the board of one company, and we're now into probably the fourth year, spending $500,000 to $700,000 a year on lawyers on a patent fight, and I keep thinking there's a win-win in there that's not through the lawyers, and I don't think that fosters an environment that's there to innovation. Now going back to your question, reward the people who are innovators, and this is
Right.
across the entire company, not just in product development or whatever, but in terms of processes and approach. If AI might have nothing to do with your product, but it very much could have everything to do with the way you handle your customer service or whatever. And if you're not an innovative company, then you're trying to disregard that.
Right.
And there's all the reasons in the world. It's going to displace some people, or it's it's going to get hold of the nuclear arsenal, and we're going to be charged with ruining the world or whatever.
Who knows? Who knows?
Who
in
knows?
this?
No, it isn't there.
Definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
So thank you very much for all the different stories that you shared with us. Seriously, they have been inspiring, at least for me. I hope as well for our audience.
No, I mean, even for me, it was like eye-opening. Even even as a young entrepreneur, this the challenges and this idea of staying true to your company's DNA and fostering innovation, and it's eye-opening.
Yeah,
Definitely,
exactly.
yeah.
So, as always, we want to conclude our episode with a question from our previous guest.
Right.
So, they proposed this question for you. Like, what is your green flag and your red flag? And that could be approached like to the personal life, but as well like to the career aspect, whatever you want to frame it to.
Well, as an entrepreneur, your personal life and your business life are all inextricably intertwined.
Definitely.
They're really never going to be that. For me, the green flag is innovation. The green flag is new and novel. I love chaos. I think I can connect dots faster than most people, and you do that in that innovative way. And he's like, well, if you took this and that, we created a tent. When our tent sales slowed down, because I went to a philosopher genius I knew by the name of Buckminster Fuller, and he was, most people don't know who he is. They didn't even know at that time. But I mean, he was one of the thinkers of the world. He created an entirely new math because he said the math system doesn't work. There shouldn't be non-discrete numbers like pi and whatever. And so he created a math, and using that, he created geodesic structures, the only physical structure. The larger it gets, the stronger it gets. By being around those people, you get pretty excited of what you do.
For sure.
And that's my green flag.
Your green flag.
And the red flag is no. The word no.
Oh, okay.
It's not possible. You can't do this.
I told my kids and my grandkids now that there's no such thing
As no.
no.
Yeah.
True.
100%.
I like it, actually. I don't think that that's even a red flag.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the world is full of opportunities. Just go there and discover them. Like, and if you can't find a way to figure it out, there are many obstacles, as you have said as well, that you faced in different ways, different challenges, yet there is a way to do it.
Yeah.
So I like it. Thank you very much.
Well,
and
thank
therefore, do you have a question for our next guest?
Well, my question really relates to, are you optimistic or are you pessimistic? And if you're one or the other, how can you transcend the existing input that you get, whether it's on the television and newspaper or whatever? You pull up your phone and you've got somebody's bombing somebody, or somebody's killing somebody, or or whatever. And if there is that environment, it can be paralyzing. Paralyzing as an entrepreneur because you feel like you're out of control.
Mm-hmm.
So are you optimistic or pessimistic? And how do you overcome it if you're pessimistic?
Sure.
Definitely.
Then last question is, are you optimistic or pessimistic then? I'm curious.
I'm optimistic.
Perfect.
And as I said, in wilderness is the preservation of the earth. Go into the wilderness, hike, bike, climb, ski, do whatever, and what you will find is you're not focusing on the negatives that are out there, and they're real, but you're not focusing on that. And once you're not focusing on that, you can actually be a lot more innovative and creative and whatever.
Thank you, Hap.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been really an amazing experience, sitting here and listening to your stories, your insights. I think I can speak for Lydia and even, our viewers, but thank you so much for, giving us your time.
Glad to offer that.
That's
one of the reasons I teach at Hult.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for watching and
Thank
see you
you.
in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.